So now, victim number 1. Rest easy. It took a while and a lot of effort, but we found you, just as you asked. Now, can we move on to another video topic, please? Have a fungus. The nightmare finally comes to an end. The conclusion is at last upon us. A true finale. One where I can confidently, triumphantly discuss the full story. As the title suggests, the original, unedited victim number 1 image was found. But I'm sure you've already seen it. I want to take my time here, so let's hold off on directly talking about it. I want this video to document as much as I can. One final video to end this saga. As ultimate as I can make it. This is the story of Mario, for what I hope is the very last time. Mario is a creepypasta that, unlike most, is completely rooted in reality from start to finish. Everything was the product of genuine events that actually transpired. It all started with our protagonist, Adam, in a website known as SMW Central. Adam was chatting in the SMW Central IRC channel when he decided to check the Hacks Waiting to be Moderated section. There, he found a hack you might be familiar with. Mario, in all caps. The description was just as odd as the name, looking as though it were written in broken English, or what an English speaker would write if they wanted to appear as though they did not fully understand English. The only immediate difference in the game, as shown in the single screenshot on the hack's page, is that the title screen was changed to better represent the hack's name. No longer is it Super Mario World, instead simply being Mario. In the downloaded zip, there were 2 files. First, the IPS patch file, as to be expected, as well as a text document. The text document was simply titled 3007014. The name of the file being a random string of numbers, interestingly has no meaning as far as anyone is aware. The content within said text file is just corrupted garbage, with only one fragment that holds any meaning. Near the top of the document sat the text, "Find me, find me, find me, find me, find me, find me." Adam could not make sense of this text, but with hindsight we have today, the reasoning behind this text is extremely relevant, just maybe not to the hack itself. After patching a clean Super Mario World ROM and loading it into an emulator, Adam was met with a curious sight. The ROM header, typically Super Mario World, had been modified. The developer had actually gone through the effort to change it into being the expected Mario. This gave Adam the smallest ounce of hope that this hack wasn't as low quality as other aspects of it had made him believe. The title screen, as shown in the screenshot, simply stated Mario. There was an immediate difference in Mario's palette too. His colors were dull. The intro message also framed Mario as the villain, rather than Bowser, a theme that would return throughout the hack. Various level names were changed. Sometimes the changes were only minor. Other times the names were entirely new. Yoshi's house turned simply into Yoshi's. Yoshi's Island 1 turned into Never Come Back. Yoshi's Island 2 turned into Yoshi's house. Yoshi's Island 3 turned into Yoshi's Island 7. Yoshi's Island 4 turned into Leave Now. And number 1, Iggy's Castle, turned into number 1, Go Back. Adam would also go on to document the various level changes, all of which were utterly bizarre. Most message boxes were given cryptic nonsense. I'll read a handful of the ones that Adam screenshotted. I hate you, but is there anything I can do to change your mind? This is the selfish way out. Don't you think you've caused enough trouble? There's no way out of here. Fly away. Besides these message boxes being different, the levels themselves had varying amounts of change. Yoshi's Island 1 looked as though someone had already been through it. Enemies missing, blocks already hit, and dragon coins completely intangible. Another, even more bizarre example is Yoshi's Island 3. The level is just a long stretch of flat, blue terrain leading to the goalpost with nothing to see or do. The part of the hack that is most infamous, however, is Iggy's Castle. When Adam reaches the first castle in the game, it's unusual to say the least. Gray lava hangs down from the ceiling in an act of gravity defiance, while message boxes litter the level. There are actually a ton of these message boxes in the level, far more than the player can actually see. While I may not be familiar with Super Mario World hacking, I can only assume that the game struggles to load them all, and so only loads a handful of them. The excess boxes can be viewed with lunar magic, and the way they're set up would have actually made it so that most of the area directly above Mario would be inaccessible, had they worked as intended. After the normal, average boss fight against Iggy Koopa, things take a turn. An immediate, drastic turn. One that would cement this as one of the most infamous video game creepypastas of all time. The text present at the conclusion of the castle level was different. Victim number 1. Eyeballs are unable to be found. The victim was found lying on our carpet. Causes of death unknown. Hand marks with unidentifiable fingerprints were found all over the corpse. This message, even to this day, is one that I consider to be perfect. It catches you off guard, implies a lot, but explains almost nothing. All we know from it is that there is a dead woman whose cause of death could not be identified, and that her body was covered in unidentifiable fingerprints. The sheer beauty of this message cannot be understated. It leaves you with just enough to put horrific images in your mind. Ones of an unknowable fate. Following this, the next area of the world map is completely missing, save for Donut Plains 1. Which is not as it should be. A hall of doors that cannot be entered due to a mushroom being forced onto the player upon entry, leading to a dead end where an invisible pipe takes you to one final room. A room with only one exit, yet another invisible pipe. This one brings the player to absolutely nothing. Just a black screen. No progression, no ending, no conclusion, only darkness. Following the forum post by Adam, the site's founder, Kieran Menor, would go on to realize that the text file that came with the patch was actually a JPEG file that was converted to text. Upon converting it back, the image was too corrupted to view, but putting its resolution into Google Images brought him to the now infamous picture. A red, distorted face with mouth agape. A set of black hands clutching at its face. This image. Was it the victim? Regardless of if it was actually the victim, this image would go on to become the face of the hack, both literally and figuratively. When people thought of this hack, they usually remembered one thing and one thing only: the disturbing, blood-red face of a murder victim with no killer. A corpse with no name. Whoever or whatever this thing was, it was now victim number 1. Even if it had eyes, unlike the description describes, this was its identity now. But what truly was the image? As stated prior, the image is that of a red face. It appears to have almost alien-esque black eyes, and its head shape is unnaturally round. What seems to be hair covers the side of its face, alongside a bizarre crack, almost as if its skin were porcelain. Its mouth is agape to an unnatural degree, seemingly unhinging its jaw in the process. Bizarre yellow lines can be seen in the background, and a black hand can be seen grasping at the side of the face, most notable when looking at the nose. The image as a whole is extremely low quality, with a disgusting level of JPEG compression pushing it to the point of rendering the already unnatural features even more so. The best way I can describe it is alien. Like if we were to ever find an alien and photograph it, we would see this. Just looking at it always made me wonder what exactly this disturbingly disjointed creature would have for a body. For the longest time, this was one of the scariest images I had ever seen, and while that has changed, I can definitely tell why it was ever considered that. So, what exactly is this thing? Well, that's the question I always wanted the answer to. I remember back around 2018, I tried to get some Discord servers I was in to help me with searching, yet nobody held any interest. With no luck there and no idea as to where I would start searching, I decided to just not. At the time, my main question was something along the lines of, if the Mario image was found on Google Images, that must mean it was hosted on another site prior. If that's the case, what the hell was it doing there? And for what reason was it created? After making my YouTube channel back in early 2021, I found myself with a platform that I could use to talk about my interests. Among the interests I had in mind, there was one that I hadn't properly talked about with anyone for a long time. One that I can't even really make mysterious because it's the fucking topic of the video. During my personal Video Game Mysteries 1 video, I dedicated a section to talking about the Mario image. About half a year later, I would find myself falling down the rabbit hole again. I really wanted to know more about this image. I made 2 videos, each getting progressively closer to the truth. The second one sticks out in my head because I had the cool virus while making it. Now, this is where I dropped the big truth bomb about this image. It was all a hoax. Well, for 4chan at least. So, good old 4chan.
Do we even know who is this 4chan?
An image board site where the main hook for many is that the level of anonymity one can have there while posting is far greater than any other website. This has led to a lot of very interesting situations, one of which is the focus of this section. You see, on the 19th of August, 2009, a post was made to 4chan's paranormal board where the OP claimed that this image would appear in the upper right-hand corner of their desktop every night. The post implied a level of paranormality, and quite a few posts that came after were said to play into it. The original thread where it all took place is lost, as far as anyone is aware, though a follow-up thread existed where people were discussing the events of the first one, and we do have an archive of that one. In it, there are mentions of audio files appearing with strange names, as well as general fuckery whenever someone tried to download the aforementioned image. The audio files, when combining their names, spelled out self-bondage. If one were to take the file name for the image, 1264026880, and use it as a MySpace ID at the time, they would have apparently found a MySpace page for a band known as Common Man Down. Self-Bondage was an album from the band. Going a step further and checking their website at the time would only provide you with one thing. One very familiar face. It wasn't long until the frontman, Jordan Davies, would reveal that it was all a hoax. Okay, original OP here. Finally. Didn't honestly think it'd last this long, but amazingly it did. Firstly, I don't want anyone to think I was trolling. merely an experiment I was wanting to try regarding setting up a mini ARG. I think those who can make successful ones that genuinely scare people are artists. 4chan was just my canvas last night. I like paranormal stuff. I like sampling paranormal things and incorporating them into my music. So I wanted to try expanding the idea a bit into this experimental mini ARG. The interesting thing was that I never same-f***ed any posts. All the other anons, except the lead.mp3, was posted by my keyboardist, so there were some obvious liars in this thread. Of course, assuming this picture isn't really haunted. The pic was a heavily altered, obscure picture I found. I distorted the face and added some extra grungy features and saved it in a low quality. I did not use Photoshop. I used the GIMP to encode the messages. When I started, I didn't think the post would take off much, but it did. So I decided to improvise and quickly made the sound files to extend the ARG. Lastly, for all the virus-related activity on the other anon, trolls, liars, coincidences, or this picture is really haunted in some fucked up convoluted way, I did not encrypt any type of virus to do any harm to anyone's computer. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the ride and had some fun. Man, that was grammatically weird. So there you have it. This is where the image came from. It was created to mess with the paranormal board of 4chan and potentially promote the band Common Man Down. So from there, we now talk about what came next for me. I don't quite remember why I did what I did that day. A part of me may have thought that it was worth diving through trash just to hopefully find a flake of gold. Thankfully, that part of me had a point. I decided to actually go to the Mario page on the Creepypasta wiki for my search efforts. The comment section specifically. Usually not a place I like to be for any reason. I decided it may prove helpful in how many people were there. Surely one of them had a lead, right? Well, yes. Or rather, one of them was a lead. There was a comment on the page that no longer exists as of this moment from KTB Media. This comment, in essence, from what I can recall, was him saying that he knew a lot about the hack and was somewhat involved with it, followed by his Discord tag, in case anyone wanted to know more. Now naturally, as someone wanting to learn as much as possible, I immediately considered adding him. The only problem was, anyone could say what he was saying. For all I knew, he was just some random person on the internet saying whatever he wanted to say, and could even just straight up know nothing. I looked deeper into his username and found a YouTube channel with a deep history of Super Mario World ROM hack videos. Besides that, he also had some sick-ass sunglasses on, which, hey, let's be real, that's all you really need sometimes. With a little more confidence in my decision, I finally reached out. After a brief discussion, he said something I found more than interesting. Fatal Frame. He sent me a video with a timestamp for what he meant. Upon seeing this, I made a rash conclusion. One that I still deeply regret. Even if KTB has apologized and taken responsibility for the claim that he did, I feel it necessary to actually apologize for even once stating that the Fatal Frame image was the original, unedited image. Even despite being so horribly wrong, I proceeded to publish the information gained here as though it were the absolute truth. Most were satisfied, but a few rightfully questioned it, even to the point of outrage. I'm sure even now there are some people who still believe that the woman in pain image is the true origin. And I know I can't stop these people. Right after making that video and presenting it to KTB, who I kept unnamed, ungendered, and uncredited throughout the video for the sake of being anonymous, he mentioned something interesting. He could contact Jordan Davies if I wanted him to. I responded positively to this, but in a way that may not have fully expressed what I wanted. In hindsight, this was just one of my many horrible mistakes. Hindsight is 2020, and it shows that I should have been more clear in my desires. Months would pass, and an idea would sit in the back of my mind the entire time. What if I was wrong? I would reach back out to KTB feeling as though I had missed something. It would be at this point that the first direct contact with Jordan Davies would be made, 3 months after the video was posted. Exactly 2 weeks later, I would finally see KTB return with a response from Davies. It is at this point that I would like to apologize to him if I've been pronouncing Davies wrong. I once knew someone with the exact same last name, and it was pronounced Dave-Ease rather than Dave-Is. I only recently considered that I may be doing this incorrectly. Anyways, this would be the point where we'd get our first potential description. The original was a Japanese girl in makeup, if I remember correctly. It was from a black metal type photo shoot. I had found it randomly on Google Images years ago and cropped and edited it to hell at the time. With this, I began to search. I would spend hours at a time searching for word salads including the keywords that seemed most relevant. Sometimes I'd add the before 2010 modifier to the end of the search to assure the results were as old as the post, but other times I would omit this just in case the only surviving version of the image was reposted after 2009. I would search, and search, and search, and I did a lot of searching, let's just say that. I would dedicate periods of my day to just keyword searching. Occasionally, I would just flat out look up victim number 1 again to see if anyone else had anything to say. This is where laughably false leads become a part of the equation. Stuff that would later become community memes like Jeremy Clarkson, Amanda from Saw 2, or... oh right, you. Alright, let's get this over with. On July 13th of 2022, the YouTube channel Chainmail Chasers would upload a video titled MARIO Creepypasta Image Origins. In it, the narrator talks about the MARIO Creepypasta in... oh, hey, it's me. Yeah, the video contains me, much to my surprise at the time. The video then takes an interesting turn. The narrator explains that they took the woman in pain image, tried to recreate the edited version with it. Then, using TinEye, they reverse searched the recreation, getting one result. From there, a video was found from 2008 where the uploader, Ice Cream Monkey Fan, talks about receiving an email. In essence, the email is a creepy chain letter about showing the attached image to other people, or your corpse will become the next image. The text has a heavy link to the text found at the end of the Mario ROM hack. And I don't think I really need to explain that the image presented in the video was intended to be victim number 1. Chainmail Chasers, the channel that uploaded this video, is an unfiction series. It is, in our universe at least, completely fictitious. The channel is dedicated to telling a story using the medium of old-style YouTube horror analysis videos, and is honestly incredible. Like, I won't spoil much, but the effects in these videos are some of the most impressive things I have ever seen on the internet, period. If there's anything you should take away from this part of the video, it's to go check out the channel. I am technically a canon character in the series, and the channel has actually interacted with me in character prior without me realizing it. So if you like my content, go watch their content after this. Or else. Now, it goes without saying that a ton of people genuinely believe that Chainmail Chasers was 100% real. I know the creator of Chainmail Chasers, Ebola Granola. She's a really cool friend and stuff, but I also regularly throw giant, comically oversized rocks at her house because of how she accidentally created a hoax that would make the search slightly harder. Just remember not to take things at face value. This is how you end up with the woman in pain and Ice Cream Monkey Fan believers. 11 days had passed after finding out about chainmail chasers when suddenly I got curious. After some searching, I managed to find the ultimate jackpot. I found Jordan Davies on Facebook. Contrary to popular belief, there is actually a reason to have a Facebook account as shown by this event. After sending him a message, I began to lose hope. It would take 15 days for him to respond. A full 15 days of me being paranoid that I would never get a reply. Thankfully, what came next was a legendary moment. We began to talk. I was soon met with an internet horror story in the making. He did something I'm sure plenty are familiar with and plenty are terrified of. He mentioned having an old hard drive that could contain the image. Yeah, that was the moment where my eyebrows went through the ceiling. As much as I trust him, the "it could be on an old hard drive" response was a cliche for internet mysteries at this point. Media goes missing, person makes claim that they have an old drive somewhere that may contain it, they go to get it, it's broken, they can't deliver. It's a tale as old as time. I semi-ignored the prospect, instead focusing on just getting as many details as I could and discussing leads. He would explain how he compressed the image so intensely. It was via sending it to a Nokia phone via email. He said the redness came from a contrast algorithm of old versions of GIMP being weird, and mentioned that he had never played Fatal Frame. Time would go by, the messages took longer and longer to get responses, and soon things began to seemingly die down a ton. That, of course, would not last forever. On October 11th of 2022, at 12:55 p.m., something happened that I didn't even believe at first. Have you ever had a dream where you know what's happening is too good to be true, and so you just wait for your brain to put the pieces together and jolt you awake? It was like that, but in real life. I don't even remember if I was even awake for very long before it happened. I just remember seeing a notification for unread messages on my Discord server. Upon checking the message, I found, "Blame it on Jorge." I don't expect all sorts of big names to suddenly hop in and help with this mystery. Jorge isn't just going to materialize and help us spread the message. So to preface this, I've been watching Jorge religiously since around 2014. His top 20 unintentionally disturbing kids characters from around the world video was one that I would watch over and over. I'm pretty sure I once sent him an email telling him this, only to rightfully never receive any sort of response. Scary ass behavior on my part. To put it lightly, Jorge is without a doubt one of my favorite YouTubers. His videos have an unmatched atmosphere to them, and he's a clear inspiration of mine. Take all of this information in, and I'm sure you can figure out what exactly I was feeling at that moment. I had to double check that I was even alive at that moment, then double check that he was the real Jorge. After he was able to verify, we chatted in DMs. I don't really think it was that much of a surprise for me to learn that he had come for my information on the victim #1 image. He was making his The Lost Media of Creepypastas video at the time, and wanted to know more about why the information was outdated. On July 31st, I unlisted the video that claimed the image was from Fatal Frame, and then on September 26th, unlisted the video with a new thumbnail, title, and description to accurately portray the inaccuracies present. I made it public once again because I realized that it was like the only way people were going to get the common man down information at the time. So unlisting the video would just do more harm than good for the search. After talking with Jorge and telling him all the information I had but hadn't published yet, he would indeed go on to make the video as expected. My nerves were exploding up until the video was released. I had suspected it would be a Halloween video, and I was right. I remember my entire body shaking uncontrollably while watching the video, until eventually I couldn't take it anymore and I jumped to the victim section. It was so surreal to hear Jorge mention me, and everything about this was so cool, until it showed up again.
As a side note, a different channel named Chainmail Chaser, who investigates classic creepypasta images, discovered a YouTube video from 2008, which strangely uses the image. The video is now deleted, but it notably predates the Mario Creepypasta, and even features some of the same writing.
Naturally, I reacted to this information by involuntarily picking up the largest nearby rock, then proceeding to throw it at Granola's house with enough force to cut through a thick plate of reinforced steel without losing any velocity. It seems even Jorge isn't immune to Ice Cream Monkey Fan. He wouldn't be the first, nor the last person to fall for it.
On August,
But at the very least, there were corrections after the fact. Way better than what I did when faced with accidentally spreading misinformation. Much to my surprise, the next time I would speak to Davies, it would be a few days after Jorge's video, and he would mention having seen it. It wouldn't be until the 30th of December that anything would actually happen of significance, though. It was on that day that I would receive lore. The image was made one night when the band was drunk and playing board games. There was no real planning to the paranormal board posts. It was just a thing that they thought would be funny, pretty much. Davies simply Googled creepy Asian, he recalls. From there, he edited the image in GIMP, hyper-compressed it with a Nokia phone, and posted it to the X board. After that, he would go on to give a full description of what the image might have looked like. Image of one Asian woman wearing black and white makeup, slightly bent over, latex hand on face with daylit field in background. With that, we have a what the fuck? Only a few days later, on January 1st, I would receive these messages, which were very powerful. For the next few months, nothing would really happen. That was until the 10th of April, when I would receive a message from someone on Reddit, who I would later come to know as Petey. After talking with him for a while, I decided to make a Discord server specifically for finding the image. Little did I know, this would seal my fate forever. But like, in a good way. With the victim cord server set up, we'd slowly get new members. The server would occasionally become very active, but would equally become randomly quiet. We had people searching, and occasionally we'd add another entry to our list of non-leads. Eventually, someone would bring up my contact, who at the time I was still inaccurately referring to as the hack dev, or hey hack dev. So then I sent KTB an invite to the server. He still wanted to remain anonymous at the time, so I never told anyone that KTB was my contact in question. His presence was extremely helpful in keeping things together. He had insights and occasionally let things slip that should have made his involvement obvious, yet he managed to seemingly remain unnoticed. Even more time would pass. No real leads would come up. Sometimes people would hyperfixate on a random image that had nothing to even remotely do with victim number 1, wouldn't look anything like it, but, that's just life. Sometimes we'd meme about Jeremy Clarkson or chainmail chasers, and oh yeah, Granola was there too. All seemed mundane until the idea to invite Jordan Davies crossed my mind. I sent him an invite and he joined. I would compare this moment to your gym teacher joining your team during a gym activity. With him in our server, surely we would soon find the image. Obviously, this did not happen. Davies certainly helped us, but it wasn't like he was actually the gym teacher joining our team. He was just as clueless as us, but maybe with a bit less cluelessness because of the vague memories in the back of his head. We continued the search though, and honestly, this was when the server really started to feel like a community. It wasn't just a server, it was really a community. More of the same would take place. Nothing too eventful. Davies would eventually invite his bandmates to the server. It didn't really help too much. We'd occasionally find something to discuss, but it wasn't until the 1st of September that things really got interesting. The 1st of September started off as uneventful as any other day for Victim Cord, but would soon see a post by Denise. Denise was a long-standing member of the community, having appeared early on. She posted an image that day at around 4:35 p.m., an image that made me react with the following video clip. Needless to say, most people immediately got excited seeing this image. The makeup on the side of the face was an exact match for the crack on the victim's cheek. It was uncanny as fuck. Reverse searching the image with TinEye revealed that it was also from a date before the Xboard post. When we found the oldest version of it, however, it would appear to be nothing but a dead end. A very interesting, damn near heart attack inducing dead end, but still a dead end. The person who had first posted the image on the internet outright stated on the page that they didn't know where it came from. This was so close though, and so we didn't give up. Everyone got together for one final attack. The ultimate move, our strongest skill! With this, we managed to find nothing. Nothing at all. We found nothing. It was quite upsetting. Then 2 hours later, someone just outright posted the original image, causing everyone in the server to instantly shit themselves. The funniest part was that the user in question had barely spoken in the server at all. Bro went 4 months without speaking a word, then randomly posted the original image. Pure fucking comedy. Not only was this user's name literally just God, but seeing the image was like, how do I suppose I could describe it the same way that I described Jorge joining my server. It didn't feel real. And as the human brain does to cope with things it cannot grasp, I started to laugh. I was so giggly and could not contain myself. After all these years of wondering, and the last year and a half searching, the thing I had been looking for was right there. I immediately wanted to start making a video. But as I said in the one that I did make, I did not have the right time or space to do so. I was lucky to even record what I did given the background noises I had to dodge. It was the least opportune time for finding the image. But at the end of the day, what matters is that we even did it at all. And I won't lie and pretend it's all rainbows and stuff. You'd better believe it sucks not to be the one to find it after all my efforts, or at least my perceived efforts. Let's be real, I did sort of stop searching actively once I made victim cord. Slow and steady may win the race, but you're not winning a race if you're just standing there the entire time. I really can only blame my lack of efforts. It is extremely relieving to have this all over though. Okay, so we have the image, right? What is it? Where did it come from? And how did Davies come across it? The image is that of what I can only assume is a girl cosplaying as Kyo from the Japanese heavy metal band Darren Gray. The image was originally taken and posted on February 25th of 2007 by Flickr user J3SSL33 with the title of Creepy Me in the description of "I'll hunt you. Wahahaha." The image depicts the cosplayer grasping at their face with a wide-eyed, presumably intended to be creepy look. If you take the image and throw it into just about any paint tool, you can adjust its contrast and brightness, revealing exactly what Davies described. Wasn't a bad algorithm at all. The photo just has a lot of redness to it already. With minimal effort, you can make it look strikingly similar to Victim. In fact, plenty of people have already done so. It's kinda crazy. I remember getting some skeptical comments on my initial video, which are fair. I didn't exactly include any reasoning for why it absolutely is the unedited victim image. Now for how exactly Davies came across it. This part is interesting, because really, all we can do is speculate, but I think I have a fairly solid conclusion to draw here. The title of the photo is Creepy Me. It is tagged with both creepy and Japan. Davies said that he searched something along the lines of creepy Asian. I feel it to be fair to assume that Google at the time found the image with both creepy and an Asian country in its tags and went, surely this will do. Thankfully, it was right, and it did quite well. As for how God found the image, this is what he told me. He was in a call with an unnamed friend when he decided to put this image through PimEyes, a facial recognition site. Scrolling through the results, He didn't seem to find anything at first, but after scrolling back up, there it was. It was genuinely as simple as that. That is the entire story, apparently. Amazing. So after all of that, what exactly went down following the discovery? Well, at first I wanted the information to stay in the server until I could make a video like the one that I did. Because as the owner of the server and the person who started the search as we know it, I really wanted to be the first person to publicly share this information. I will admit, it was a little greedy. But given that nobody seemed to even remotely care that I did this, I don't exactly think I'll be beating myself up over it. After my video, I pretty much said, yeah, do whatever you want to do with it. With that, the information spread quickly. I told Jorge via Discord DMs that we found it, and so he made a big Twitter post about it. He almost called Mario a cursed hack. I suggested he didn't do that though. Following this, Billy Styler of all people showed up, and I later went on to explain what happened via DMs. Also yes, Billy Styler is now aware of my nerd emoji tier rant from the Women in Pain video. I find it hilarious that he of all people showed up in the server, considering how his minor, insignificant bout of misinformation spreading was one of the biggest reasons I even checked the wiki in the first place to confirm my suspicions, resulting in me finding KTB. Which, yeah, I am just now remembering that this was part of why I went to the wiki page for Mario. I am not changing that part of the video where I said I didn't know. Consider this a plot twist. Another result of this is that I now feel like Victim Court is a community proper. No longer are we just a random server. That and this entire ordeal taught me that KTB is a really good YouTuber and you should go watch his videos on other Super Mario World hack related horror. He even did his own video about the image being found. And a big video about the Mario hack itself. Speaking of the Mario hack, there was something special I wanted to do to end this video. That's right, gamers. This entire video was secretly a creepypasta analysis video the entire time! Okay, no, but when actually playing the Mario hack for this video, I began to ponder. It would be fun to give my own take on what the story means. Now, for those who don't know, the original creator of the hack recently came out of thin air to take credit for his work after years of silence and not wishing to associate with it. With this came additional insight as to how the hack was created and why. Basically, he created it out of spite after receiving a low score in an annual Super Mario World level competition. It was just supposed to be super cryptic and weird with no rhyme or reason for most of what was happening. Even the image was completely arbitrary. Yeah, victim number 1 being the image we've been focusing on this entire fucking video had no intent behind it. So with that, we can easily assume that the hack has basically no meaning, right? And I'm sure that's the way everyone looks at it. To me, however, it's fun to extrapolate meaning from the meaningless. So I'm gonna do that anyways. I have 2 theories, the villain theory and the meta theory. The villain theory is the most easy to follow, and it's likely what most people thought the hack was intending to imply. Mario, our beloved platforming plumber, is actually a murderer. The theory is as follows. Mario killed someone, be it the princess or whatever. The victim themselves really doesn't matter for this. What matters is that Mario let power go to his head. He was their hero. He could defeat anything. He could get away with anything too. Or so he thought. In the ultimate act of evil, Mario took the life of someone in Dinosaur Land. Victim number 1. He intended to do it again, and he may have. There was no true law in any of these lands, though. The Mushroom Kingdom didn't exactly have a prison. What exactly do you do when that happens? Well, in this case, they avoided Mario, begging him in the rare chance they got to do so, into thinking about what he did. Reconsider his role. Change his mind. Be a hero again. But he didn't change or reflect. He took the selfish way out and doubled down on his behaviors. The problem, however, was that he had already been through these places. The enemies that didn't run were already gone. Mario was alone. His only company was a single Yoshi he could salvage. The Yoshi that didn't have a choice. So from there, Mario would continue his rampage to the best of his abilities, finding and completing whatever semblance of a level remained. After defeating Iggy Koopa, who dared try to put an end to his rampage, Mario moved on to the next level. A level symbolic of the hell he created for himself. Doors he cannot enter, choices he cannot make. He let his ego grow too big, and now all of what he once had access to is inaccessible. He thought he could have everything, and that everyone would continue to praise him. But now there was nothing left for him here, and there was no way out of this situation. All he could do now was fly away. Lovely story, right? Yeah, that's basically the entire idea. It's silly, cheesy, dismissive adjective number 3,254 million, but it was fun to formulate. I, however, have another take on what the heck means. The meta theory. In essence, the meta theory is the idea that the hack represents how the creator felt making it. Mario, kind of a bad guy. Had Mario never existed, none of these horrible feelings would be coursing through his mind. The levels being mostly barren represent the fact that what's done is done. Someone already played the level and gave the score that pissed the creator off. Messages like, "But is there anything I can do to change your mind?" represent the inner bargaining, the desire to go back. While messages like, "This is the selfish way out," and "Don't you think you've already caused enough trouble?" represent the inner debate, the belief that making this ROM hack to troll and bother others is selfish. It's only a way to take out your grief on others. It's only looking at the self. The victim represents the level itself, a mangled, defiled corpse touched by possibly hundreds of people that the creator could never reasonably know or identify. The implication of being number one, however, represents the hopeful drive within the creator. Though this one failed, there's always another chance to try again. It's likely that even this one will fail too, becoming another victim. But as I said earlier in the video, standing there doesn't really win the race. Inaction and no risk-taking will not get you anywhere. The doors at the end represent the future. Doors that he knew were there, but he couldn't open them. Not yet. He could see them, he could feel them, but they were not ready to be entered. Of course, there's also the player. The many messages could also be seen as true deterrents. The desire for the player not to play at all, that they're wasting their time, that there's nothing for them here. The people didn't care. This entire meta theory probably sounds like pseudo-deep gibberish, but it was fun to write and think about. Despite the many signs telling us players that it's not worth it, that we should not play, that anything would be a better use of our time, we continued to play anyways, and theorize and discuss. We found it fun. We weren't discouraged. The message, "There's no way out of here, fly away," can easily be interpreted as exactly what happened. The creator, after the hack blew up, couldn't find a way out, so he flew away, disconnecting himself from his work. Up until recently, of course. But that then goes to show what I said earlier. There's always tomorrow, even if tomorrow was over a decade later. So, how exactly do you end a video like this? I think you do it by first thanking everyone involved. Let me thank KTB for, everything. Can't even count how many times this dude has helped. Bro is just the best goddamn helping machine there ever was. I swear. Let's not forget Jordan Davies for joining in on this search and giving leads. Of course, we can also thank him for even making the image in the first place. That works. I'd also like to thank Ebola Granola for making the clarification post after the image was found to make sure that the information got out there. course, we could also thank Billy Styler. You know, he mildly pissed me off, and that was enough for me to find KTB. Blame it on Jorge, of course. He published all this information, got it out there. Goose Boost for being such a goddamn bro and refraining from making his own video about this topic until I do. That's like god tier behavior, dude. Also, he just makes really good videos in general. Oh, who could forget God, the person who found the image itself. And of course, there's Petey, Denise. Okay, so there's a lot of people, maybe even too many people. Where did you all come from anyways? Crazy stuff. It was a fun ride getting to the end, and I hope to find more creepypasta images and their origins in Victim Court after this. I'll leave a link to the server in the description if you want to join and participate yourself. Or lurk. We have a lot of lurkers. Anyways, this has been Midnight Crick, hyperfixates on finding a specific photo for like 5 years. Until next time, have a fungus. I'll read a handful of the ones that Adam screenshotted. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate. What the fuck?